That'll do it. Well, we need some Jack in the Box.
That's the only thing that's going to make this better.
Welcome to the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast, presented by Cinema Summit, a podcast about the art of making films, no matter how small the budget. And now, here are your hosts, Alex Darke and Trevor L. Nelson.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is episode 48 of the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Alex Darke.
And I am Trevor L. Nelson. Today we're going to be talking about creating movement in your scenes. But first, Alex, what are we drinking? What are we on today?
Well, we got some beer today.
Oh, yeah. It's a little
Although
hot.
we should mention, we had a little tasty taster of a tasty whiskey drink that we got the other day.
Didn't we do that for last podcast?
Did we?
I don't know. It's all a blur.
I thought we just had a
No, maybe just had a tasty taste for no reason.
Taster for no reason.
Yeah, well, if we didn't have it last podcast, it's a little whiskey that Alex brought to our attention, to my attention at least. Why don't you tell them what it is, Alex?
It's an Angel's Envy rum cask rye, I believe, right?
That is correct. And
it's quite good.
It is delicious. I'm a big fan of rum, and I don't mean like Captain Morgan rum. I mean, like, good sipping rum. And when I heard that there was a whiskey rye that was aged in rum casks, I was in.
It's quite
really,
good.
It's really freaking expensive.
It's really weird and hard to find for some reason out here.
Yeah, I think it's hard to find everywhere because it's like small batch. But I found some, a little expensive, but we were lucky enough to have sold a bunch of stuff, so we had a little celebration.
Yeah,
and bought some.
Not bad.
And it's delicious.
Not having it now,
Delicious.
though.
No.
Having just the regular old Coors Light.
We've been running around trying to get some stuff sold, and so a little sweaty sweats, and I needed something cooling me off.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
getting
is
warm over here.
Yep, and I'm sure
We say as like the people up in the cold states are like freezing once again.
12 inches of snow. Yeah, and I know we were complaining about how cold it was a while ago, but
Gosh, now it's like a balmy, warm, like super hot, like 71.
we just we just can't have any luck. We just can't have any middle. We can't have any midsies.
No.
But I don't know what that is. But yeah, we just can't seem to find a happy medium. LA likes to be super cold for us, or a mean hotness.
Yeah.
And what are you gonna do? Drink beer, stay cool. So what's new with us, Alex?
Let's ask Trevor what Trevor's reading.
What's that?
What's Trevor reading right now?
Oh, Trevor's reading through NAB stuff.
Knew it. Guess what? That's what's new. NAB 2019 is upon us.
I can't stop looking at stuff. He heard my little scrolly wheel. And he's like, what is that? It's like, I'm looking at all the cool stuff I want to buy with all this money we're making.
I signed up to go.
Yeah.
But knew it was a bad idea.
Yep. Not until,
I always sign up to go, and I have not yet gone.
It is free, guys, so if you want to go sometime, it is in Vegas. So if you're not close to Vegas.
It's free for like an exhibition show pass if you get a code, which is really easy to get because everyone gives them away because they want you to come see their exhibits.
Yeah.
But then they have like workshops and special panels and like different types of passes you can get, and
Bastards.
It'll cost money.
Yep. It's all business, guys.
They also have something called the Young Professional
We're neither
program.
of those.
They call it YoPro,
Oh, no.
which I qualified for. I don't even know.
You're not young.
I know. They must
You're
have a
definitely not
liberal
a professional.
A liberal definition.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that is. I think it's just like you get access to like special thing for the youths.
The youths. So if you don't know that NAB was going on, you're going to be hit with a lot of what's cool because they are announcing a lot of cool stuff that we want to, but we can't buy because we still have to sell some more stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And speaking of buying, we just got our GH5S.
GH5S in his house.
Which is cool.
Big fan.
We don't have a lens for it yet.
No, but we did borrow a lens. Got to play around with it a little bit.
Yeah, tested it out.
Big fan. I you know what? I grew up, wet my filmmaking beak on the Canon DSLRs.
That's gross.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize, guys. This is a family-friendly establishment.
Okay.
On the Canon DSLRs.
Sure.
And I gotta say, the Panasonic DSLRs are much more intuitive and better laid out.
They sure are.
I mean,
for many reasons.
I get it. I get it when the not the GH5S, the 5D Mark II came out. Mm-hmm. It was like the beginning,
like the first one.
Yeah, it was the beginning of the 1080 HD shooting, right?
Yeah.
And so I understand if it was more still geared towards, photography.
Yeah.
But at this day and age, in this stage of Canon DSLRs, they know that they're being first used for video, yet they still are not intuitive for video. Panasonic GH5, beautiful red record button.
Well, I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see the percentages of people that are using it primarily for photography.
I think
because I feel like Panasonic cameras have a really low group of people that are using it for photography.
That's true.
But Canon, I think actually they do. There are a bunch of photographers that buy Canon, but I don't know. I'm just curious about those numbers.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess Panasonic is better known for video work, so why they're not. Granted, there is a section in the user manual that talks about taking 4K images. So I mean, they do expect people to use it for a camera at some point, but I doubt a lot of people are buying a Panasonic GH5S for like, hey, guess what?
Yeah, I feel like the buying mentality for Panasonic and even Sony, DSLRs is I'm going to buy this for a video camera, and as a special bonus, I get a still camera. Whereas Canon and Nikon cameras are
still.
I'm going to buy this as a still camera, and special bonus, I can shoot video on it.
Fine. You win this round.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see. I get what you're saying, though. I still feel that a lot of people are buying these Canons for video work, and you think that the video would be a little bit.
Well, see, the other thing is Canon has their swanky line of camcorders.
Yeah.
Which are affordable and probably better suited. True. Like the C200 shoots 4K, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, it's 420 or whatever, but whatever. Yeah. And it's got all the inputs and the whatnots for the audios and the, it's got like it's got like a flip out screeny.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, because like they don't even bother with their screens on the DSLRs, making them like viewable in different positions, like Panasonic does.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's weird. It's just one of those things where it makes you think they must not care about that market.
I don't think
that much.
I really don't think they do. So we got the GH5S. Next up is going to buy a lens. We got we bought a sweet tripod, new to us.
Oh yeah.
But yes, now we got to buy a lens and buy like the whole cage and all that fun stuff for the GH5S and enjoyable shit like that. So more buying, which is what the reason we are selling everything, so we can buy new stuff and make it awesome. And also, just a little thing. Went on our website today. If you guys haven't heard of it, I think we mentioned it before. It's Gigster.
It's
good
website.
Great website
for viewing locations.
For getting upset that people own these houses only to film in them.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. It didn't seem like it's in a lot of places, so I kind of like scrolled around just to see. It's certainly not in any places. It's like there's 4 locations in Las Vegas. There's like 1 in Death Valley. And maybe 1 in Utah. But, like, other than that, it's all California stuff. So I don't know if it's available to everyone.
Yeah, maybe it's still rolling out to other places.
Yeah. But it's very handy for anyone in L.A. It's unlike other location websites. It actually lists the prices, which is nice. If you go on any location listing website, it's like, great, here's all these awesome locations. Then you have to contact them and, like, see if it's even in your price range. But you'll notice on this particular website, the prices vary so drastically. So it's like, why you're wasting time looking at these other ones where it's like, you can't even afford that. It's not even close to your price range.
And it's shocking.
You're looking at the wrong ones.
Yeah, and it's shocking how low some things are. Like you're like, oh, okay, so this house, $650 an hour, 10-hour minimum.
Yeah.
That's $6,500 a day.
Yeah.
Then you look at this entire apartment building or this entire retirement community that's been abandoned and is like closed. $150 an hour, 3-hour minimum. It's like, oh my gosh.
Crazy differences. It's like this weird old school mentality again. It's like the location managers or whatever, they don't want you to know because they don't want there are so many other like location listing websites that they don't want to be undercut by some other one that they don't put prices up. It's really weird and upsetting. I feel like Gigster is onto something. It needs to spread a little bit more. It needs a little bit more love. In my mind, it's great. It has a lot of houses and a lot of and it has a decent amount of like other random things, but it needs more locations in my mind that feel lived in.
That's true.
Or like used, because a lot of them are just like really modern or like almost like model homes that are just staged.
Yeah.
With stuff. It's like no one lives there. It's just staged with stuff, and it's just all like you could go there and straight up shoot like an IKEA catalog without ever bringing anything in, because it's just like
staged there
like that.
And granted, we did find some sweet locations that we want to use for future movies, and more importantly, we found 3 locations.
3.
That we want to use for our little horror film that we're putting together. So
pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I'm pretty excited. The expensive one is the elderly retirement home, and that's going to be pretty expensive. But if we play it right, we only need to shoot there for about 5 days. 5 days maybe. And then we're at the cheap places where it's like $86 an hour, $105 an hour.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Love it.
And they look
Plus,
awesome.
I think you can reach out to them and like contact them for a deal too.
Yeah, and also probably contact them outside of it and get a cheaper deal because, of course, Gigster takes money. But hey, we want to support Gigster, so
sure, keep doing what you're doing, Gigster.
Yeah, we'll go through you. We're not going to go around you at all. No. So yeah, that's what we've been doing. We did that tonight, and it was pretty sweet. I was pretty stoked. It's getting me stoked on this script and this idea. We kind of changed it up a little bit. Alex wanted to make it a little more unique, and that led us to Gigster and some really cool stuff that I think mission accomplished for Alex.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
NAB?
Yeah.
Just talk about cool stuff. No, we're talking about movement in scenes. Now, either physical movement or acting movement or blocking movement, but movement within a scene so your scene and your frame is not boring.
Yeah.
Because, man, even when you're doing just a talk of like a back and forth conversation, you can have movement to keep it interesting, even a slight dolly in, push it on the dolly. But it's like any kind of stale camera work just makes it so much more boring.
Yeah. I think I always go back to this. I feel when I worked in acquisitions and I was watching movies all day long.
Yeah,
it was almost a sign of, should I keep watching this movie to see how they placed the cameras and what they did movement wise and stuff. Like, was it just all static shots for an entire scene?
Yeah.
Did they move the camera? Was it motivated? Things like that.
That's a big thing. Motivated. That is what we got to. You remember this whole time we're talking motivation.
Yeah, and I think there's, nowadays there's so many tools for you to move the camera. People can get carried away with it even, do too much movement.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, it was the shaky cam was in because it made it seem more real, especially for horror films, especially with the found footage.
Horror films, yeah. Or even, what's that movie I love? Collateral.
That's a good point, yeah.
Great movie. Lots of handheld. That was like shot on a broadcast-style camera.
Yeah, and I think a lot of...
that was the Thompson Viper, wasn't it? I don't know. It was shot on
I think it was the Viper.
A big old camera.
Well, I think it also comes back to these TV shows that are super popular, like Modern Family. It uses like zooming during the scene.
They use it as like a tool.
Yeah, and they use it to make it seem more real or more documentary style.
Yeah, and I think that's almost become it's a joke in itself.
Think it's a joke now?
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, I think other things do it to like. Knowing that everyone knows that that's like a thing,
Fair.
It's you do the whip pan and then like the crash zoom in.
Yeah.
And on someone like looking confused.
Like for reaction or like,
something.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit more manufactured.
That's fair.
Than I think something like Collateral, where they're just using it, and it's like they may be manufacturing some of it, but it's just like a guy holding a camera, and it's really hard.
Yeah,
so
but with something like Collateral, they could easily put it on a Steadicam and make smooth shots. They are manufacturing in a way.
They made a choice, but they're not necessarily like putting on their boat shoes and like
putting on their boat shoes and going on a boat.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
It's also a thing in nowadays. I think it's become such a thing that you can see it in CG shots that are entirely CG. It's one of those things where I first noticed it in like Firefly. Did you ever watch that?
Oh yeah.
So they had their totally CG shots, and to make it seem more realistic, it was the same, almost the exact same shot as we were talking about from
use your words.
Modern Family.
Oh, okay.
Where like the camera finds it, so there's like a spaceship, and so the camera like whip pans to the sky, sees a little like cloud of smoke, and then it like crash zooms in and then focuses. Yeah,
they do that in like a lot of space movies, it seems. Yeah. I think they do that in Gravity, where they're like, oh god, I don't know where I am. It's like the camera's trying to find it, and
it's the same thing. It's like to try to make it seem more organic or like real or something.
Yeah.
But
I think I also noticed it. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've seen it, but in Iron Man, there's some scenes where like a bomb goes off and they shake the camera, so it seems like the camera's on the ground, and it really like makes it seem like there's a camera stage there rather than you're just watching in like a godlike status of just watching everything happen.
Sure. Yeah. Same with the JJ camera shake from Star Trek.
Lens flare and the camera shake.
Yeah, he would go up and like whack the camera with his hands and just like rumble it for the camera shakes. Yeah, I mean, there's that kind of camera movement, and then there's also things like dollying, panning, all that kind of stuff. The stuff that would maybe be considered more sort of like classical, or even stuff that Spielberg does.
Yeah.
That old hat.
What is? I'm trying to remember correctly what Ballo told me about a motivated dolly move, and I think it was always in a tense scene you push in to kind of get closer to the tension and push in to get into the middle of it, almost like you're coming into a tense scene and you're kind of putting yourself in between the two conflicting sides.
Sure. Well, when you dolly in also, it's almost like the space is closing in around the person because you're, it's making it claustrophobic.
I mean, you got the crash zoom pan in or pull out crash zoom made famous by Hitchcock and like Vertigo and all that.
Oh yeah,
and that is like,
what do they call that? Oh, there's a name for it.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's a good one.
I'm gonna look it up.
The Vertigo dolly move.
Yeah, dolly zoom. Let's see. It's called the dolly zoom.
There we go.
A Zolly.
Zolly, that's it.
A Zolly or a Hitchcock shot or Hunter shot. But it's called the Hitchcock zoom in Vertigo. And that is if nobody's seen Vertigo here, all right, pause this podcast and go watch Vertigo. It's a fantastic movie.
Spoiler alert. It's by Hitchcock.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, the guy in it has vertigo.
Yeah.
So spoiler alert, he uses the Hitchcock zoom or the Hitchcock shot or the Zolly to create this sense of discombobulation and like queasiness that one would get from Vertigo. And that's a great way of using movement within a shot or a frame to really propel the story, make the audience feel even more emotion and feel more connected to not even the whole story as a whole, but just that shot or that scene. That's a great. I love that shot, and people use it now as a joke almost. But back then, it was like everyone was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
it was great. It was great.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's in a lot of movies, isn't it? It's in like Goodfellas.
Yeah, I mean,
all sorts of stuff. All right, so how do you motivate movement? Let's talk about that first before we get into all the different ways you can move stuff.
Yeah. As a DP, what is your favorite way to move things? To
motivate?
To motivate a move.
Well, I think one cool thing that I like to see is, establishing shots of buildings or whatever.
Yes. I hate static establishing shots.
Right. And there's always that just kind of classic sort of pan down a building.
From the top of the building down, yeah.
Yeah, you see it in every sitcom. It's just all over the place. But I kind of like ones where it's like that, and then all of a sudden, boom, you catch someone, and then you move quickly with that person walking or whatever, So it's like you're setting them up for this expectation of just a lame sort of establishing shot, and then you pick up a person and you move with them at a rapid pace or something to increase, the stakes or whatever it's happening. It's just kind of like a breakup of pacing.
Yeah. And one of my favorite stories of that, and I think one of my favorite uses of that is the opening scene of Rosemary's Baby, where it's this ultra wide shot and you see all the cityscape, and then it just follows and it looks like you're just looking at the street. But then after a while, you notice it's following Rosemary as she walks into her apartment building, and then it goes up, and it's that is so good because you think it's just this generic thing.
Yeah.
And my favorite story is that Billy Fraker, my 290 professor, DP of Rosemary's Baby and Bullet, among many, many other movies, said that they had a platform that was hanging over the side of the building. Across the street from the building that they were shooting. And Roman Polanski, and I think maybe the first AC, each took 2 tries at tracking the shot. And to this day, to the day he died, they never knew which shot was used. Because every time they did it, each one of them had their eyes closed because they were so scared. So they just did 6 takes, hope that one worked, and one did, and they don't know whose it was. But yeah, it's that's a great motivation rather than just panning up or down or tilting left or right to show a building.
Yeah.
Have something happen at the building.
Yeah, or, you do the standard pan, and then it just is a straight cut to someone inside the building or something. I'd rather catch the movement.
Little burpees. I know. I'm with you too. Granted, everyone expects the character to walk in, but do something. Have something happen. That's what makes filmmaking awesome is you can change the expectation of the audience. Yeah. Or you can use the expectation of the audience against them, and that's what Jordan Peele says he does in his movies.
Yeah. And in the same way, you can kind of do the opposite, right? Where you're starting following a character, let's say through their apartment, across the room, or maybe they're pacing back and forth on the phone.
Yeah.
And you're following them. And then at a certain point in the dialogue, the camera moves away from following them and just kind of tilts and starts to focus on an object that's a key part of the scene or something, So it's
it's very Hitchcockian.
You're moving... You're starting on what could be kind of just a standard sort of scene and sort of moving away from it to inform the audience of something.
Or you can use it to subvert the almost in the beginning, like I said before, subvert the audience's expectations. I've seen it where it's starting on 2 people talking in an office, and then it's slowly dolly in, and they're talking. You're oh, these are the main characters, and then it just continues to dolly past them to someone sitting at their desk who is the actual main character, and everyone's oh, that's just being clever and whatever, but then it's oh, you just, from what those people were talking about at the water cooler, and this guy's face, when you dolly into him, you see that he's so bored with work and it's so mundane that you were able to build character right there. You were able to build a situation that wasn't just in an office building, it was in an office building where our main character hates his job and is bored by everything.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think some of the biggest, if you talk to film nerds, a lot of them will they have to be real big nerds though. You could go to a party and say, hey, what's your favorite movie, and talk to somebody for 10 minutes. But you have to find the real film nerds to be what's your favorite scene
from
a movie. And a lot of people will say things that like, oh my God, the editing and all that was amazing of this scene or the acting. But rarely do they realize how important the camera movement is.
Yeah.
Like, think of like the hallway scene in Old Boy.
Oh, man. So good.
Awesome. And everyone's like, oh my God, being able to do that whole fight the whole time. Well, if you think about the camera moving back and forth and choreographing that and like following the actor perfectly when he was doing moves and all that. Or, I mean, I watched, this is, again, talk to a film nerd. Hey, me. Not a film specifically, but that tracking shot in True Detective Season 1 where it's the fight in the ghetto. And then it like continues on over the fence.
Yeah.
And to the other side with one shot. And it's like, you know, if you think about it, shots like that, the camera people, the camera department have to be just as choreographed as every one of the actors and director.
Yeah.
And they have to go through their whole thing and hand off things. And, you know, that kind of stuff is cool, but it also is not just to be cool. It's to really either tell a story or make the basis for something. And it's very useful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's kind of like this whole, I don't know. There's this whole idea of like doing oneers, right?
With a single shot.
Yeah. Which is, it's almost like a badge of honor or something. I feel like people want to.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays there's the crazy ones that are like, I'm going to make a whole movie that's a oneer, and that's just crazy.
Guys, don't be dumb.
But I think there's something really, really awesome about having a scene where there's no cutting or no perceived cuts, and you're just like in the shit with them basically as stuff's going down, like Children of Men.
But see, that's the thing. That's the problem that I have with kind of this whole idea of like, oh, you know, the one shot's awesome and all that, because sometimes they use it, like they fake it just because they think it adds something to it. Like I never saw it, Birdman. Sure. Like, they tried to make it one shot.
Saw that?
No, I didn't. For some reason, I never caught it. I don't know why.
Oh man, it was good.
I know, and I need to watch it. But it's like that's the kind of stuff where it's like, you know, why did you need to do it one shot if you couldn't pull it off in one shot? Like, you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah,
as somebody saw it, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a lot of reason why they did it. But
I don't think it needed to be. I just think,
okay,
you know, it was a choice.
Okay,
but I think in that particular instance, and I think with a lot of movies, I think they feel they need to find a gimmick for their movie.
Yeah,
know?
That's what I thought it was.
Not to say that like every movie that tries to do the entire thing as a oneer is doing it just because it's a gimmick. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing as like Soderbergh making movies with iPhones. It's like, that's a gimmick.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he doesn't mean it that way per se. I think he kind of does. And I think he probably got like some weird deal with Apple or something.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that's kind of what that is. And I think it's the same kind of with oneer shots. I think it's more like the filmmakers being like, I want to do that. That seems cool.
Flex their muscles and show how good they are.
Like with True Detective, it's something, and Children of Men, it's something that gets brought up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So you'll always
free publicity
be
almost.
The guy that did the cool over the fence oneer from True Detective. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It's a badge of honor kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess to me, I run into the problem where it doesn't add anything to it, because we're talking here about adding movement to a scene to, you know, increase attention, increase, you know, excitement, increase. Yeah. And so
I think the oneer in True Detective definitely increased excitement.
Totally. I guess the fact that they tried to fake a oneer on Birdman, did it add anything in your opinion?
I mean, other than,
to me, faking a oneer would be
the quirkiness of it. I don't know.
To me, faking a oneer would be to make it seem like it all happens in super real time, where it's like not stopping, and it is a 2-hour moment in this character's life, and it takes place in 2 hours.
I feel like I did feel that for most of it.
Okay, then it worked.
It had kind of like a cool energy about it, and the soundtrack was really cool. It was almost this sort of like percussive, almost like moving with the camera in terms of like the beat and the pacing or whatever.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool in that way.
I'll get on board with that then.
There was one, man, it was one of those things in the movie, and leave us a comment if you feel the same. There was one shot where it was like a very clear edit.
Really? Did they try? Do you think they were trying to hide it, or it was just like there's a clear edit?
It was like this can't even. To me, it was like this can't even be counted as a movie that is trying to be a one take, even like mimic a one take, because it's so clearly an edit. It was a CG move.
Interesting.
Where they like moved from, I can't even like quite remember, but it was like the camera moved from outside, across the street, like through a glass pane into the.
So he finchered it.
Yeah, there was like some weird Finchery thing.
Okay.
And it wasn't even that well done, I didn't think. And I was just like, what was that? You know?
Yeah.
That bothered me. Anyway.
Yeah.
I do think, though, for that one, there was something unique enough about it that I was like, okay.
Then fine.
I like it.
That's okay. Then that's a motivation, and I'm okay with that. Rather than this idea of like, it's just to have bragging rights almost.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely think it was worth it, and it added to it for True Detective. But I hadn't seen Birdman, so I just wanted to know. But yeah, okay. So
Do you ever wonder? Speaking of,
oh God.
So if you ever, if any of you guys are interested in this type of stuff, you might want to check out something like American Cinematographer magazine.
Love that magazine. Great magazine.
And you'll see all these crazy rigs, right? That the filmmakers make, just out of like pipes and rods and clamps and stuff, and they like attach it to cars in really weird spots, or they like, put it on top of a pole that it shouldn't be on, and they like hang it over, and they do this weird sort of like pulley system, you know, weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it takes tons of planning, and tons of prep, tons of setup. And I'd be curious, to make a project, right?
Yeah.
Side by side.
Okay. That does the same shot, but doesn't use the rigs?
Not necessarily side by side, but just like someone that does something simpler.
Yeah.
And then someone that does those complex ones. Play them for audiences and see if there's like that much
worth it,
of a drastic difference in how they perceive the movie.
I think one of the craziest rigs I ever saw speaking of Children of Men, again, do you remember the
car scene?
The car scene?
Yeah.
Did you see the rig that was made for that?
So
it was like another car on top. And so they had the actors that had to, lean back in the chair as the camera passed over them, then pull up the chair again and all this. And it was all choreographed one shot within a car. And I was like, damn.
Crazy. Another movie that did that was I Saw the Devil.
Yes.
The crazy,
love that movie.
Crazy stabbing scene.
We went from tilt and pan.
Wow.
To one shots and how crazy. We're all over the place. So now, dollies and sliders. I think dollies and sliders.
Well, I don't think we were just talking about motivating movement.
Yeah.
So let's go back to like different ways.
Yeah, man, we just went all over the place.
Different ways you can move the camera to create movement. So the first one is pans and tilts, kind of the most basic.
Yeah. Pan up to reveal something. Hide something from the audience and pan up. Tilt up. God, I always do that. I don't know why. I literally do that, and when I'm directing, I have to be like, wait a second, tilt. No, tilt up to reveal something. Someone's standing, above you.
I feel like it's super underrated move. Pans and tilts. There's you can use them so well.
Yeah, and they're underutilized.
Yeah,
people think they're like lazy or lame. I think they're great.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, again, not necessarily. It's not like it's a competition, which one's better. But like the idea of doing a slide on a slider and a pan.
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of instances you could do a pan. It would take a fraction of the time.
A lot less setup.
And
same result.
Same result.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not true all the time because a slider will give you parallax in a different way. Mm-hmm. The tripod head is not moving laterally. It's just spinning.
Yeah.
So you're getting a different, it's a different move, obviously. But I'm just saying it's something to consider more seriously while you're planning your shots, I think.
Yeah. Now, do you think a pan and tilt are the biggest motivation for those are a reveal?
Yeah.
Like like we said, even if it's a simple reveal of an office building in the beginning, you want to bring everything. You want to show everything you can in frame that doesn't fit there. So you pan or tilt. So you have something happen off frame. You tilt up to reveal it, or you pan to the right to reveal something that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like J.J. Abrams saying he wanted lens flares to always make it seem like something was happening off of frame.
Yeah.
So you always get like this idea of like pan or tilt to reveal what was happening outside of the frame.
Yeah. And there's also the idea of, following people. If you're on a long lens and the camera's kind of far away, you can do a pretty nice, follow of someone with just a pan.
Yeah.
And then there's also, so going back to kind of like unexpected things, did you ever watch Ozark?
Love it.
So there's that scene when he's walking up to his wife's office building or whatever. Her boss's office building. And there's like a tilt down.
I don't think it was even her boss. It was just, some dude. Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't even an office. It was
his apartment.
His apartment.
Is he talking about like the first or second episode? Yeah.
And there's like the standard, he's walking out and it's kind of like a slight tilt down to reveal Jason Bateman walking up to the apartment, and then all of a sudden there's just like a dead body that just falls and hits.
So good.
So good.
So good.
That's one of those things where, again, it's like you're just expecting like an establishing shot of him walking to the building.
And then you want to see the building.
And then you're going to see them cut into when he gets into the building, and that's like what you're expecting. And then, bam,
body hits the ground. Fantastic. But the motivation could be to mess with the audience. It allows you, by moving the camera, you can also move the audience's gaze. So if you want to kind of hide something, you can move them away from it.
Yeah.
Like that. Like if you want to trick them into thinking, oh, you're just going to go look at the building and then boom, add some surprises. It gives you control over what the audience sees and feels.
Yeah.
A lot easier than you'd think with anything else.
Yeah. I feel like next we should talk about handheld because it's also kind of one of the more basic ones.
Yeah.
And also, you can combine. You can do pans and tilts while it's on your shoulder.
What? Yeah. And maybe not as smooth, but...
Yeah, not as smooth.
But... JB Smooth.
This is why they call Trevor the human tripod in film school, because he was good at pans and tilts.
That was it. I couldn't
direct it.
Only... And of course, when I panned, I was saying tilt, and as I was tilting, I was saying pan. But yeah, I mean, it's the handheld. So there's some. It's funny because as we're talking about this stuff, like there's more and more technology to remove the shake.
Yeah.
And so it's like
I love the shake.
I think the shake can be overdone, and it makes my head hurt sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
And it just makes me nauseous, and I'm just like, okay, enough with the shake.
For sure. But, I should clarify and say I don't love the shake. I love the handheld look.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be shaky.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like Bourne Supremacy.
Like I thought, like maybe Cloverfield had a couple too many shakes.
Yeah, but again, they did that. I feel like for
that straight effect of like panic and I
like
have a handy
gimmick.
cam. Yeah,
it was like a found footagey thing.
Yeah,
but I like handheld for a couple reasons. One, you can do all the moves. You can do a handheld version of a dolly move.
Yep.
A handheld version of a Steadicam move, a jib move.
Yep.
A pan and tilt.
Yep.
A tripod move. You can do it all and have a little bit of a style to it and move much quicker between them. So, for example, we did a short where we had a very limited time in a location, and I had set it up so it was pre-lit basically with no stands on the ground, so we could shoot in any direction, basically.
Yep.
And we did it all handheld.
Yep.
Just to make it really fast because we didn't want to have to deal with like doing setups and like setting up sliders and moving them in and out of place, like changing the heads and like doing all that stuff, right? That you have to do, leveling and all that.
Yeah.
So
the correct way to do stuff. So dumb.
Yeah.
So dumb.
So we did a handheld, which it also, I just like the style of it.
Yeah. It wasn't shaky. It was just kind of had the slight like movement, the quite like the jitters almost.
Yeah, and you're able to get one shot.
Yeah.
Stand up, move to the next shot, get it, do a little move that's like, because it's handheld, it's not quite as like I don't want to say static, but just like it's not quite as rigid.
Still, I would say still, and like
as like a normal pan, right? Because it has like this full movement to it, and you're kind of like moving your whole body and tilting and like doing all this stuff. So you can do just a pan, and it feels different in my mind.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you.
And so in that particular one, we did a lot of like pans and tilts, and that were sort of like connective tissue, as it were, to like the edits and stuff like that. So we were able to like sort of pan and like grab a new shot of a second character and then cut to an over the shoulder of the other guy. And like, it was just kind of this motivation to edit, really.
And you can do some really crazy angles as well when you're handheld. You don't have to worry about putting out the legs of the spreaders of a tripod and making this leg a little lower and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And and I would say that if we're talking no budget filmmaking, handheld is really great because it's quick. It's quick. And if your short or your feature works with handheld, like it's not distracting and it's not going to be seen as like unprofessional or like just cheap, like it just works for the story. It's a great way to motivate your camera as well as just move things along a lot quicker.
Yeah. And I think a good example, like we said before, is Collateral. There's a shot that I will always remember because
I just saw it the other day.
This probably isn't a good thing. I don't know that I remember it, and it's so clearly like hit me.
Okay.
There's a scene when Tom Cruise is getting out of an elevator.
Okay.
And they do what I would call a poor man's jib move.
Okay.
Where the camera operator clearly was lifting the camera. Either I can't remember if it was over his head and then he brought it down, or if it was on the ground and he brought it up and then started walking out of the elevator with him. It was just so clearly to me like camera guy picking up camera, putting it on his shoulder.
It was early, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And I think it was it was low to high to reveal Tom Cruise. So you see the feet walking, and then it's like, oh, Tom Cruise. And it might have been the first time we see Tom Cruise because in the beginning of the movie, he's in that office building.
Yeah.
And then he gets picked up by Jamie Foxx when he's at Jada Pinkett Smith's office.
Yeah, it could have been.
And they could have been like, because, I mean, here you have Tom Cruise, super recognizable, bleach blonde hair, short hair, and a badass. I think it was, I may be completely wrong on this, but I think it was low to high.
Yeah.
And it still worked, though.
It still worked.
But
I was like, oh, man, that's crazy. They did like a jib shot and clearly a guy was just picking it up off the ground.
Yeah. But it worked.
It was kind of cool. I mean, I liked it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah. I get what you're saying there. So handheld, the shake, as long as it's not super, super shaky for reasons that you think make it look cool, it works. It still works. I mean, that's why people love shoulder rigs, because they can just free roll the camera.
Yep.
Like okay.
It.
Now we have dollies and sliders. Like we said, this kind of dolly and slider moves are kind of like, you know what? To me, it's always like, especially when you have a dolly that is a really good dolly that can then just work as a tripod if you're just doing a static shot. Can easily, pedestal can go up and down.
Yeah.
To me, sometimes this is going to sound so anti no budget filmmaking. Dollies are kind of like the cheat code. Like,
sure.
What's going on in the scene? Let's make it so it's not so boring. Okay, let's just do a small dolly move.
Yeah.
Just to move the landscape a little bit. And, it's hard to say that that's a cheat move when dollies are so freaking expensive, except the Duddy dolly. Duty dolly. But like stuff like that, it's like, I feel like when, like, there's a lot of reasons you use a dolly move. Again, a reveal, or to follow along with someone on a walk and talk, or, to move really fast and follow along like a car or like an explosion or somebody running or something like that.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, it's a way to just like add a little movement into your scene when you don't have anything and you're just trying to make it interesting.
Yeah. Well, I also, to me, so dollies in particular, not so much sliders.
Yeah.
have a vibe of polish to it.
Yes.
More precision, I would say. So when you see them, they are, to me, it creates a vibe in the movie that's like this, like the filmmakers made this movie the best they could. You know, it was like they leveled every piece of track.
Yep.
They put out like 40 feet of track.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, and they like are pushing it. There's like marks, and you know, it's like it's a whole deal.
Yep.
And plus, dollies just have like a weight to them that you can feel, I think. You know, sliders are lighter. They have a little jitteriness to them, and you have to use them in a specific way. But dollies, you can move so slow and have like such smooth moves. It's just different, you know? And so to me, we're talking like real dollies, like crab dollies and stuff, things that have like real weight to them. Not so much... You know, doorway dollies, you can kind of get that, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, like a hefty dolly is...
on like a really nice, smooth, balanced track. It's just nice, you know?
With baby powder on it, just smooth.
To me, it means Hollywood, you know? And so to me, that means polished, and it's like a real movie.
Yeah.
But that being said, that's not to say that I think only movies that have dolly moves are real movies.
Way to make everyone feel like shit for their movie.
But I just think they're very specific. They take a lot of time.
Yeah.
You really, if you're going to use them, you have to use them right. So that means you have to level them. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it.
And so there has to be reason for it almost.
Yeah, there has to be reason for it. And, you know, there's specific people that are just dolly grips, you know, and they do that for a living. And because it's such like an important and specialized thing, it's something to consider, you know?
Yeah.
When you're going about it. Because I think sloppy dolly moves can be a sign of a low budget film. You know, you might as well just not do a dolly.
And that's why I say sometimes it just seems like it's a cop out. It's like, we just need to put a little movement in here. Let's throw a dolly move in.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a doorway dolly that's like not super hard to put together, but shows that it's not hard to put together.
Yeah.
And because you're just bumpy and all that. And so I would say that a dolly move is, and like sliders is the same thing. It's like a kind of like a, I mean, for those who don't know, it's like a baby dolly.
It's a baby.
It's a baby dolly. And we do that. We do a lot of sliders when we are doing interviews, a second camera, just to kind of add movement and to make the frame pop. Sure. You know, like we said earlier, the dolly or the slider too, because it's, again, just a smaller miniaturized dolly basically, is to kind of like build tension, or like, you know, you can also use it as a reveal. Yeah. Dolly out or slide out and show something and, you know, create a bigger frame. But a lot of the times it is something that is used to kind of build tension, I would say, or ease tension. Like at the end of a think of The Godfather, when he's sitting in his chair in the very beginning, Marlon Brando, and the dolly pulls out to kind of just disconnect you from the evilness that is the Godfather, and just kind of put him into this like shadowy, like godlike figure. A great dolly move can really add a lot of emotion to a shot. Yeah,
and I think sliders nowadays have become so popular because they are so much smaller. They're easier to set up.
Yep.
The track is usually speed rail or some type of other sort of steel bar or something. So you can't really have long dolly moves necessarily.
Yeah.
Because real dolly track is machined to connect and be almost like as seamless as possible.
Yeah.
When it's moved across, but when you can't necessarily do that with two pieces of speed rail,
and
expect there not to be like a groove that you thwop over.
Oh, and you'll feel it. You'll feel it.
So slider moves are usually shorter.
Yep.
Slower. I mean, they're just kind of like accent pieces. It's harder to do. It's to me, it's like hard to get like a grand feeling out of a slide.
Yeah, I think we did it okay in that one when we shot the promo video for Kill Me Next.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
It was a car pulls up, cameras. It was shot at Larry's studio, and the way the Larry studio set up, the parking lot is about 3 or 4 steps up from the actual entrance to the building. So if you put your slider down, you could be about even with the ground, you could easily be headlight level of a car. So it was headlight level. Character gets out. We see the feet. We slide to the left as the character's walking towards us, and then Alex handed me the handle of the head, and I then pushed it back to the dolly as the person walked by the camera. And it looked pretty cool. It was one of those, cool single shot movements.
Yeah. So I think there's ways to sort of try to push it a little bit, but for the most part, I think
it's like Alex said, it's an accent piece. You're not going to do a lot with a slider because they are so short.
You can do one of those slow, small push-ins or like pull-outs.
Yeah.
You can do slides to reveal things or like small moves, but I don't know. I like sliders a lot.
I do too.
I think there's a lot you can do with them, a lot you can get out of them, but it's just not the same.
I like dolly, and I like dollies too, and that's why we have a $20,000 Chapman dolly that we're trying to sell. If anybody is interested, but those can be very cumbersome to set up.
And travel with.
Exactly, which is why we're selling it, if you know anybody who's looking for one. But then I also added this in while we were talking, cranes and jibs.
Yeah.
Because you talked about Ozarks, and I think if I remember correctly, there's this great tilt as well as a crane shot where it cranes up and tilts down to show them sitting on the edge of a cliff and the giant Lake Ozark.
Yeah.
Right there. And that's an awesome way to do a reveal.
Sure.
High and pointing down.
Especially when I like that when the camera starts off at a normal camera height, so you're not aware of it at the beginning of the shot that it's about to move beyond what is normally expected.
That you're about to get face smacked with a sweet pan and tilt. Yeah.
I like that too. I also like combining jibs with dollies.
Yeah,
there's a really cool idea of, and I never really think about it too much.
Okay.
If you had a shot where you wanted to move the camera over tables or something.
Yeah.
You could have the camera on a jib, have the jib on a dolly, and dolly forward so that the camera's moving over something. Where the camera wouldn't normally be able to dolly because like a table's there or something, you know?
Yeah.
Doing that type of shot.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. And you can get some inexpensive cranes and jibs that do a good job. Kessler makes some really good ones. And, I think a jib or crane is a really good way to do a reveal. We did one of the shorts we did where it was just me and Alex acting, shooting, doing everything for it. We did a not so elegant jib shot where Alex stopped and then looked below him, and we quickly craned up and looked down to show what he was standing on.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty at all.
There was no remote head, so it was just like the crank on the...
Yeah, it was just
doing it old manual style.
And we didn't even have a monitor.
Nope.
Didn't have a monitor because we were just flying by the seat of our ass. But that's a great way to do a reveal.
Yeah.
Move up in the same shot instead of like the old, I'm looking down, cut, shot from above. Nah, that's not motivated. That's not pretty.
Yeah.
It's typical.
Yep.
Got to change the expectations of your shot.
Yeah.
And now, and we talked about this a little bit with a handheld shake, but finally the ways to move is gimbals and stabilizers. Those are becoming more and more popular. I think we talked, when did we talk? Last time about how we're kind of anti-gimbals these days.
I'm a little anti-gimbal these days.
Yeah.
Because the mechanical nature of them fails so often. I think it's almost, I don't know. I don't want to say it's not worth it because it is worth it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really cool applications for it.
Yeah.
It's just until the technology is so stable that you can operate it without fail. I just don't even I'd be afraid to be a gimbal operator as like a profession, whereas I would not be afraid to be a Steadicam operator because Steadicams just work.
Yeah.
Always, because it's mechanical. It's like a ball bearings.
Yeah.
You know,
once you put more electronics and more motors in, there's so many more things to fail. That's why it's like it comes to think of like cars back in the day. Back in the day when they didn't have all the electronics and computers, they were very simple to fix.
Yeah.
Now it's like I had to freaking replace the main computer.
And they lasted forever.
Yeah, I had to fix the main computer on my freaking car that I bought less than a year ago. Granted, thankfully Mazda helped me out. Thanks a lot, Mazda. Much love. What up? But that's just another thing that can fail. You know, it just they're great, but they still need to be perfected. They still have time to grow.
Time to grow for sure.
And the whole point of stabilizers and gimbals is no movement.
Well,
I mean,
no unwanted movement.
No unwanted movement. Like, yeah, you can do your pan and tilt, but no shakiness at all. You want it to be smooth
as you're walking.
And these are, I mean, one reason that people really like these is because they are replacing the dolly. People can walk with these and do like a dolly push or dolly pull out without having to set up a dolly.
Same with like Steadicams.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So Steadicams used to be really expensive, specialized. You had to be trained basically in how to use them and practice a lot.
Yep.
It wasn't just something you could pick up and use. And so gimbals come along. You can turn it on and pick it up and get like kind of cool shots out of it. It doesn't require a lot of practicing.
Yeah.
And you know, it's now accessible for everyone.
Yeah. And they're not that expensive.
Not that expensive, but they do have the drawbacks.
Yep.
But yeah, I think again, it's one of those things where I almost think of them as totally different things.
Gimbals and stabilizers?
Gimbals and like Steadicams.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Again, because they get kind of different shots. When you have a gimbal, it's on a sled that is like 3 feet. And so when you do it's not even, I guess it is a tilt.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a tip because it's tipping over at a different nodal point or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So it's different. And then, I don't know, the pans feel different. It's operated by a person.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird look when you do pans and tilts from a gimbal.
Yeah, it's at least when I've seen it, it's too RC feeling.
There you go. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah,
there's not enough finesse yet.
You know what it is? It's almost like it's just so jerky and sudden. So it's like here, rather than like a smooth start and finish.
Yeah, or if it is a smooth start and finish, it's like too perfect. Like they keyframed out, or not keyframed out, but they added the smoothness on the ins and outs.
Yeah.
So when they push the joystick, it like feathers in at the same rate that it feathers out at the end, and it's just like too perfect, you know. Or like
there's like it's too perfect.
There's an uncanniness to it.
Yeah.
That isn't quite organic.
Yeah. I'll agree with you on that. But
there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it because unlike a Steadicam, you don't have to be strapped to it.
Nope.
So you can pass it off to people. Mm-hmm. You can unhook it from things.
Yep.
So you've seen all these crazy, behind the scenes things where people have it hooked up to like cables and pulleys.
Yep.
And then someone will come over and unclip it and start
grab it
running
and
with it. Or they'll like clip it to a drone and the drone will take off, or vice versa. You know, you've seen all these crazy things that you couldn't get really any other way. So it is a cool tool that should be considered for certain things. And, you know, think about how you can use it, but also I think about like don't think it's a fix-all. It's not, or just like the only tool.
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And
they can fail.
They can fail, and it just isn't the same. You know, I don't think someone walking with a gimbal necessarily could replace a dolly.
No,
I mean
they try to, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I love a dolly. It just has a different look, like the background and the surrounding area around it just looks smoother almost on a dolly.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So that's how you get movement in your thing, at least from technical standpoints.
Yeah.
There is also ways in just moving your actors, blocking it out.
Sure.
You know, if somebody, just think about your daily life. If you are like me, you are always multitasking or have ADD or something like that. So I tend to be doing something when I'm talking to people. I tend to be cleaning up the kitchen or moving stuff around and having conversations. So just think about how you can go about moving your actors in the frame to give some movement without moving the camera. You know, have an actor get up and walk away if they're really upset while they're still talking, but then come back before they leave the frame.
Yeah.
Have your actors go from standing to seated. Have them do something on the screen that just makes it seem like it's a part of life rather than them acting it out like a play or like a monologue.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something, so I think there's a couple different ways people go about this. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like one good way to start if you don't know what to do is put your actors in the location and tell them to go about it however they feel they would naturally.
Yeah,
right?
okay, that's good. That's good.
So you can see, what they think the characters would do in terms of like moving and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Then from there, you can work around them and say, okay, if they will move on this, they like to move on this line, and I can swing around over here.
Yeah.
And do a slider move over here and kind of like build it around what they've created.
Yeah. And this is why movies take so long. You rehearse this, you block this, and then you shoot one scene.
Alternatively, you could have it all prepared ahead of time and just tell the actors where to go because you know already what you want to do and where you want them to be.
Or you need them to be someplace. Like if you need them to be like at the door by the time they finish because they're going to open the door right as someone's about to knock and reveal this person. Yeah. So there are some motivations of like moving an actor to move the story and the scene along that you need them to do. And that in that case, you have to tell them it can't be all organic. It has to be like you have to end here. Now, if it's we start here, end here, however you want to get there is fine. That's great. But just remember, you got to also, if you're going to do some close-ups or some pickup shots, you're going to also have to edit this together. So they're going to have to be pretty consistent with their movements so that you can get it in another angle.
Yeah. And I think, just from my experience, I think generally actors like to have a little direction. They don't necessarily want you to tell them exactly where to stand at every line or like, if it's not necessary for you or for them, they don't want to know every single, move that they're supposed to make because that's going to stifle their performance. But I do think sometimes if it's not a scene that has action built into it, it's useful to come prepared with ideas of what to do. Mm-hmm. But then you can always ask them or like start it out by having them walk through it, knowing that if you don't like what they've decided to do or they couldn't come up with anything, you have backups and then you're able to implement those and it's...
Yeah, I think one thing you could say, when I always say this to actors when you're trying to implement movement that's not in the script or not needed to be at an ending point, it's like, does that feel natural? Because if it doesn't feel natural for them, it'll show up on screen.
What am I doing with my hands?
Yeah, exactly. Sit on them. Shut up. But no, it's something like that. Like if it's not natural, the movement's not natural, it will show itself and it'll look bad. Yeah. So definitely talk to the actor while you're doing this movement, and especially if you add a day of or as you're filming with them and going through rehearsals. Say, hey, does this feel natural to you? Do you think your character would, slowly tap a knife on the counter because they're very upset? Something like that. But just talk to your actors. They'll listen. They'll talk and work with you.
All right. I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah. How long was that?
Well, according to my watch, we're at an hour 14.
Oh, God, guys, I'm so sorry. Real quick before I forget, look up a one take that they did for Kidding that, like, just, pretty good. It worked. One shot worked through multiple seasons and years. and it was just all about blocking. And everyone, all hands on deck. You move this prop here, this camera goes here. There's no dialogue, so we're going to call out who needs to move where at what time. But it's an awesome use of a one shot to show the passage of time rather than just cutting through a montage.
Yeah.
It was like a one shot montage. It was fantastic. Just look it up. You'll find it on YouTube. But we'll keep moving forward onto what's cool. So what's cool, Alex?
All right. What's cool? I mean, a lot of cool stuff because NAB's going on.
Yeah. Oh, God, so much cool stuff.
Got an email from Hive the other day about the Bumblebee 25C, which I'm kind of a big fan of.
I am too.
It's like almost a little hockey puck. I mean, it's not really a hockey puck, but it's just like
two hockey pucks.
Yeah, it's like a little Hive Wasp. It's a quarter of the power.
Yeah.
But it's full color control. It's kind of tiny. It has mounting points all over it.
Yeah.
And you can use the same Profoto accessories and like speed rings and stuff. And while I got that email, they also told me that there's an Android app now for their products, which is cool.
Android for life.
So,
oh my gosh,
excited about that. I feel like we might add some of those.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add to the gear list.
Because they're so cheap. They're only like $300.
That's crazy. That's awesome. That's crazy awesome.
Yeah.
I got the Canon Sumire PL Primes. They just announced these and they're showing them off at NAB. It's a set of what do we got here? I think it's 7 lenses.
Yeah.
They got 11 blade iris.
Yep.
The color tone is unified throughout all the lenses.
Sure.
And
as it should be.
As it should be, and it's $7,500 a lens. Right about that. They have a 14 at 3.1, a T3.1. Then it's 20, 24, 35 at 1.5, 50, 85 at 1.3, and a 135 at 2.2. So pretty fast. Canon makes some good glass.
It's interesting to me that they decided to make them all not uniform.
In the speed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Maybe they're trying to make sure that everything's uniform other than the speed. They're just trying to...
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean...
It's interesting. They also... I read a different article about it where they were talking about how they wanted the lenses to give a more sort of filmic look, like a softer look than some of their other lenses.
Yeah.
And so some people were questioning if these were the new K35s, which are these cool old school vintage Canon primes that they used to make that had like a coating on it that gave it a look that you can't really recreate. They're like very well-known lenses, vintage lenses that are very popular now.
Very popular.
And so people were like, oh man, are these the new, are these like K35s?
For the new age?
But Canon was like, no, they're different. Guys, they're different.
You still buy those old ones, but then also buy these.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they look pretty cool though. They started putting out some test footage with them. And they look pretty good, but they are very smooth and soft.
Yeah, buttery.
Like butter.
Like
sweet. But yeah, I could see why people get them confused for the 35, the K35s.
Yeah.
Because they are very smooth, but I like the look of them. I like what they do.
Yeah. And also, it's the first Canon lens primes.
Yeah.
I believe that they offer in PL mount.
Yep, that's true.
So that's huge for you Canon people that like your PLs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Check those out.
About $7,500 per
lens.
Per lens. So not bad. What do you got?
This is kind of weird.
Okay.
A little weird.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of like it. Blackmagic has introduced their sort of 80s and 90s looking jog shuttle keyboard. They call it their DaVinci Resolve editor keyboard.
Okay.
It's kind of like a big keyboard with colored buttons specifically for DaVinci Resolve. It has a jog wheel to the right, and it looks totally like retro-y. Just in that...
Yeah, it does.
It's like a big, chunky keyboard.
Yeah, with the handrest built in.
With the handrest, with like the colored keys sporadically sprinkled about. So, I don't know who might want this, but it's kind of interesting, but it's $1,025, which seems
Wait, what?
Unreal.
What?
Yeah.
$1,000 for a keyboard with a jog wheel?
Yeah.
Get the F out of here.
I know.
Who do you think you are, Black Magic?
I know. Interesting. But also, I guess I should note that they've added, they always do like a press conference, like a live release Apple style kind of thing. And so they also announced that they have a new battery grip for the Pocket 4K camera.
Yes. It's
$245. They also have added scope and calibration capabilities to its new SDI to HDMI converter.
Nice.
Nice.
Black Magic coming out with some stuff.
A few things. Oh, I also saw, I don't have it on here, but they announced a thing that you can hook up to a monitor.
Okay.
To create what they call a dream color monitor from any
monitor. So it would automatically calibrate?
You can use normal calibration tools, but it gives a higher level of color calibration than your monitor normally has built in. And it also can include scopes. You can add scopes to it.
Oh, it's got to have at least a. It's got to have at least a kind of a list of what it's compatible with, because if your monitor doesn't have the range of a Dream,
Yeah. Right.
Interesting.
No, I don't know.
Trying to look this up
again. I don't know if it's
It just.
I think it was the. What was it?
Resolve 16. We got the editor keyboard. What else? I don't know. I'm not seeing it. This is really great podcast. As we're just sitting here trying to figure out what this all... the HyperDeck... Oh, my God. Let's talk about what for some reason, they decided that they needed to release something that would take 35 and 60 millimeter film and put it through Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Why?
But yeah, they released that. It looks like 2 turntables, and for some reason their promotional shot is a woman walking through her very ultra modern house, and it's just on the wall with nothing hooked up to it. So it's like, all right, cool. Well, while you're looking for that, I'm going to talk about the Teradek. They just released a whole new wireless follow focus system. We have the Red Rock Micro, and we like it, but let me tell you, if when it comes to wireless anything, I'm kind of trusted Teradek more than anyone else, simply because they are so well versed in wireless capabilities and latency and making sure that things are super responsive and super accurate. So they released this whole setup, which is you have the CTRL.3, so Control 3, which is a 3-axis Bluetooth follow focus system, and it has your wheel, all that kind of stuff. It also has a zooming and a focus kind of jog joystick. It also connects with small HD monitors to give you real-time info on your lens, what focal length you're at, how much the iris is open, all that kind of stuff. It has a mappable iris slider, so you can figure out, here I want it to be this open, here I want it to be this open. It connects with the MDR-X receiver, and then also the Motor X motor, which makes sense. You need the motor. So it's this whole new system, and Teradek is really good at removing latency for all their products, especially when it comes to wireless video. Excuse me. And so I'm interested to give this a go, see what it's like. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but nothing from Teradek ever is. Let's see, the Control 3 is $3,500, and the MDR-X receiver is $1,500, and then you still need the motors, the Motor X, as they call it. And that, I think, is going to run you, let's see, I don't think they have a price yet for the Motor X. But yes, so that is Teradek's new fancy schmancy wireless follow focus system. So it looks like the Motor X lens motors are fast, silent, lightweight, and precise. Double the torque of the MK 3.1 lens motors. and all that fun stuff. So yeah, check that out if you're in the market for a high-end wireless follow focus. And the motors can actually be daisy chained together. So that's pretty cool. All right, Alex, what do you got? Unless you found out.
I found it.
Uh-oh, what is it?
It's called the Teranex Mini 8K, and it's an SDI to HDMI converter. That's really what it is.
Okay.
And they say it's compatible with several third-party USB probes.
Okay.
Works to automatically align your monitor, and the result is saved in the Teranex Mini 8K.
Interesting.
It has built-in scopes, a waveform parade vector histogram that can be superimposed on any connected display. It handles HDR.
Jeez.
You can load in LUTs. It works in both Rec 2020 and Rec 709 color spaces, and it supports 100% of the DCI P3 format.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway,
that's pretty cool. For all those post people out there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Super interesting. And
it says it works with 1080p, 4K, and 8K monitors.
Jeez. I don't even want to know how much an 8K monitor is.
Okay.
I don't even want... Why? Unless your post house is doing some VFX.
Diminishing returns.
Oh,
okay.
my God, yeah.
So the other thing, this one's really weird, guys.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yep.
It's called the multi-turret. Old school meets new school, they say.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a real product that anyone's actually making. Looks like a cinematographer has made it for himself. And maybe, I don't know if it'll be released. But it's an old school camera lens turret for modern cameras. So you can mount 3 lenses at the same time to your camera and then use the turret to spin the lens you want into, the right position to use. And then when you want to change lenses, you spin a new lens in front of the camera.
But here's my question. So like the distance between the glass and the sensor is perfectly calibrated. Like, you know what I mean? Like putting the lens into the lock on the camera is the perfect distance that the lens needs to be away from the sensor to get the image you want.
Yeah.
This seems like it would stick it out a little bit further. And almost put a gap in there.
So I think you'd have to make it specifically for each camera.
Yeah.
And it would have to be calibrated in a specific way so as to solve that problem. But if you knew the camera, or at least like the mount and sort of like, the mount, you'd be able to make it for that mount, and it should work on every camera.
Okay.
That has that mount. But yeah, I mean, it's an issue I'm sure they're dealing with. But
which makes me wonder if this is just one guy did this for the camera that he likes, or
maybe.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Okay.
But it's an interesting idea. A lot of cameras used that back in the day, the Arri 2C type cameras.
Yeah.
Or the what was it?
I mean, all those TV cameras did too.
The Bolexes had them, I think. Some of them, and the
broadcast cameras. You'd see them all on TV stations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I had a Russian camera that had
it. That's right.
It makes sense to me if you have the camera on sticks. It doesn't make sense if you have the camera on your shoulder. But
I really wonder if this guy just made it for himself and he's like kind of showing it off.
Could be.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to steal one of Alex's what's cool, since he found somebody with NAB and he was killing it. The Tokina Cinema Vista Prime Vista Ones. The Vista Ones.
Yeah, they're
so
cool.
They're a limited edition of the Vista Primes from Tokina, and they are new single-coated front element and a new look to the lens barrel.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not so big that I'd have to spend all this money on a new look, but I do like the new single-coated front element, and that single coating allows for a reduction in contrast and an increase in lens flare.
Yeah.
When off-axis lighting is used. So J.J. Abrams is going to be all about these. About it. And these, the new look is like I would say like a gunmetal gray with blue and white lens markings.
Yeah.
And the kicker is that you have to buy a 6 complete lens set. You can't buy these individually, these limited editions.
Yeah.
It's at 18, 25, 35, 50, 85, 105. All T 1.5. So maybe the color's a little off because they went for the speed the same, unlike Canon.
Maybe.
I mean, they look cool, though.
They look awesome. And also no pricing is really available.
Of course not.
So
and
gotta wait for that.
They're going to be super expensive.
Oh, yeah, they are. They are sexy, I will say that.
I mean, yeah. Let me just do a comparison. Let's see. A Vista Prime, a 35 T1 Vista Prime is $5,000. Not bad. Less than the $7,500 that Canon's asking for their new lenses. So I would say if these are limited edition, you're looking at $7,500 probably a lens.
Yeah, they'll probably be about the same.
Yeah, about the same.
As the Canons.
But not as sexy. The Canons won't be as sexy as these are.
Yeah, it's hard to deny that.
Except that the 105 regular Vista Prime is $7,500 already, so that's going to be about $10,000. So you're looking at probably $75,000. Yeah.
Like
Ooh, sexy.
All right, last but not least,
Yep.
I have the Aperture COB 300D Mark II.
Oh. We like Aperture.
Sure, yeah, Aperture. I mean, they're very,
Sure, yeah.
they're very
Okay.
popular. And they make a lot of high-powered dish LED lights that people like because they're inexpensive and they're nice quality and they have good color rendering and all that kind of stuff. But some people had some issues with the original 300D.
Yeah.
Because mostly I think it had to do with like the controller and the power supply ballast and all the
cables you had to connect and everything like that.
Yeah. And so they've cleaned that up. They've made a revised controller with an integrated ballast.
Okay.
It's 20% brighter.
Oh, wow.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Usable with a single battery when it's at 50% brightness.
Nice.
And it has streamlined cable management and new controller mounting options to make it just more sort of clean and neat.
Okay. Not bad.
Which I think people will like.
Yeah.
It also has built-in Wi-Fi antennas, so you can control it from your
Not bad.
phone.
Probably iPhone only right now.
Like maybe. So they say that they're hoping to ship it in the next 2 months for around $1,200.
That's not bad. That price isn't bad at all.
Yeah, and I also saw that they just released or they were just showing it now.
Yeah.
A China ball fixture for this light.
They kind of go in the way of the Hives.
Yeah, I mean they always have had some cool accessories and stuff, and I mean nice little China ball. Can't hate on that.
I mean that's not bad, guys. I mean that's super bright for that price too.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's getting more and more common that you can control these things with your phone, but that's always nice to hear that they're still putting out ones where it's like, hey, you know what? Just to let you know, you can do this with your phone.
Not bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. I think that's going to do it for this episode. What do you think?
Think
we're good?
so.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us. You can get the show notes for this episode by visiting nobudgetfilmmaking.com/episode 48.
Don't forget to hop on over to iTunes and subscribe to our podcast. While you're there, give us a 5-star rating if you feel so inclined.
And if you have any filmmaking questions, still looking for a bunch more guys so we can do a whole episode of listener questions, ask away in the comments section and we will try to answer them.
Also, don't forget to head on over to fearlessfilmmakers.com to join our growing community of filmmakers.
I love it. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Later.
Peace.